So I'm not a big Cardi B fan, but I really want to talk about her new song with Megan Thee Stallion, WAP. In particular, I want to discuss how upset some conservatives are about it. In case you had your phone off last week, WAP stands for Wet Ass Pussy, and some conservatives are really mad about that song. My favorite outrage is from James P. Bradley, a Republican congressional candidate from California. Bradley went so far as to say that he wanted to pour holy water in his ears after listening to it and accidentally watching the video. Oh please, you're not mad about the explicitness. You're mad there's someone out there enjoying sex. They're enjoying it so much they're sopping wet, and that pisses you off. So I could talk about the intersection of OnlyFans, Instagram models who present a very specific body type when it's unattainable for most people without surgery, the way some women use sex to barter as a direct result of patriarchy, the commodification of women's bodies and sex, and how society systematically devalues women's labor, making them rely on bartering sex for financial stability. But I'd rather talk about wet-ass pussies, and I think the wetness is very significant. And I love the wetness in this video. It gets on the camera. It's pouring down the staircase. You need a mop and bucket for it. Women dance in it at the video's end. And I like the little hints at sin and seduction from classical art. Rappers surrounded by snakes suggesting the serpent that tempted Eve. Or the fountain that looks like a more explicit version of the Fontana del Natuno in Bologna, Italy, which features water nymphs lactating water. Yeah, so I accidentally watched the whole video. Then I accidentally listened to the explicit version of WAP because the video edit censored the word pussy for gushy, which isn't that sexy. And then I went and looked at some TikTok versions of the song, which had a better edit replacing the offending word with wet, wet, wet. Let's have a conservative pundit challenge. The pour holy water in your ear challenge. I'd watch a video of that, not at all accidentally. Speaking of conservatives, my favorite bad take was Ben Shapiro reading the lyrics to WAP. I find it telling that Shapiro is fine saying the word whore, but not the word pussy. Interesting. Very interesting. Shapiro also doesn't know how to properly pronounce the word kegel, but that's not surprising. I mean, he did say the song's what feminism wants. So, it's not in this book. Maybe I'm just looking in the wrong books for this citation. Given how much he seems to know about women, I would trust that completely without any citations. Damn it, Shapiro, it's like you didn't even try. Here, I'll do it for you. Google feminist analysis rap music and take a look. There are feminist writers and scholars talking about this subject. Heck, this JSTOR article isn't even behind a paywall. Scholarly articles too boring? How about the cartoon The Boondocks, with episodes featuring the characters Gangstalicious and Thugnificent, and the hit song Booty Butt Cheeks? Or the episodes that openly criticize BET, the Black Entertainment Network, and the explicitness in rap videos? Honestly, Ben, it's like you're not even trying. But to heck with that part of it, what really got him dragged on social media was his suggestion that he's just concerned that Cardi B and Megan have an STD because they're so wet. I'm absolutely not making this up. This dude just announced on Twitter that he's never made his wife wet. But I think Shapiro's tweet is connected to a larger cultural issue, one that demonizes women's sexuality and pleasure, and tends to make people a little oblivious how women's bodies work. To understand where this mindset came from, we have to go back a couple centuries. Seeing women's sexuality as evil has its roots in medieval Christianity, summed up with this quote from Italian scholar Brunetto. In the 1200s, when describing Sirens, the sexy, music-playing temptresses, Brunetto wrote that they dwell in the water because lechery was made out of moisture, an obvious reference to women getting wet during sex. Sirens and mermaids were a favorite symbol of medieval churches to show the sins of lechery. I mean, naked women playing music? Heretics. In the 12 and 1300s, mermaids were used in church art to show the evils of sin and lust, and, in particular, the evils of female sexuality. But for the real roots of men's suspicions about women's sexuality, we have to look to Greek philosopher Aristotle, who theorized that women were incomplete men. He wrote that, since women can't produce semen, they must be the inferior sex. More telling, he wrote that women are fundamentally cold, wet, and passive. It was women's natural moisture that made them sexually insatiable. And that's why in the Middle Ages, we saw the idea develop that overly sexual women with insatiable appetites had to be controlled by their husbands and the church. Wow, it's like excluding one gender from science and research will set institutional knowledge back. Who knew? We now know that these ideas about women are ridiculous. But this line of thinking about the evils of women's sexuality and pleasure is still with us. It makes women's normal bodily functions something to be ashamed of, from periods seeming gross to some men having no idea how to make a woman orgasm. A sad confirmation of this is in Eve Ensler's The Vagina Monologues with The Flood. In that, a woman is kissing a man in a car, and she gets so excited that she gets very wet. Soaking wet. It gets on her dress and the car seat. Instead of being excited or turned on, the man is so disgusted he takes her straight home and never speaks to her again. Which is a big reason why I like the song WAP. Most vaginas get wet, especially when a woman is turned on. It's a totally normal thing and nothing to be ashamed of or hide. WAP certainly isn't the first song to discuss women's genitals or sex. The most recent ones include Doja Cat's Go to Town, which encourages men to go down on women, and Janelle Monae's Pynk, an arty celebration of the vagina. Both songs I like, but they do use a lot of euphemisms. Most songs about sex rely heavily on euphemisms, in part to get around censors and to get played on the radio. From Anita Ward's Ring My Bell, to Cyndi Lauper's She Bop, to Vinyl's I Touch Myself, to Peachel's Diddle My Skittle, all of these songs either use slang terms or other ways to avoid being too explicit. Before WAP, there is Lil Kim's song How Many Licks, which is explicitly about going down on women, and also has the themes of connecting sex and money. In 2002 was Khia's My Neck, My Back, which upped the ante of sexual explicitness. WAP is a natural continuation of songs about women's sexuality and pleasure. Honestly, I like all of these songs. I love hearing about women enjoying their bodies and directly asking for pleasure. Also, keep in mind that these conservative thinkers are upset that famous women are talking about enjoying sex. Some of the songs I just mentioned did cause a bit of stir when they were released. However, there's also songs like You Suck by Consolidated, which is very explicit and talks about going down on women, but didn't get much, if any, airplay. I mean, is WAP a feminist bop? I don't know. Answer that question, we need to take a look at the systemic devaluation of women's labor under capitalism, and how African American women are doubly oppressed economically by sexism and by racism. And then analyze how women have been objectified in rap videos, and if taking back that narrative as both being sexual and fitting into society's standards of beauty redeems the narrative. But I don't think this is my lane. YouTuber T Noir has a great take on this subject. I linked to 2 of her videos below. But I'm giving WAP a pass. Why? Because there's so much deliberate misinformation out there about the female body. From Plato's thinking wandering wombs cause hysteria in women, and doctors in the 1800s treating that hysteria with vibrators. From hymens being predictors of rigidity. From tampons being off limits in religious households. From someone not understanding how women orgasm, and that's a lot of women orgasm through clit stimulation, and men getting mad that their girlfriends can't get off from penetration alone. There's an awful lot of people out there who don't seem to understand the basics of women's anatomy. The funniest example comes from the book Desperate Measures by Stuart Woods, which includes a scene where a woman stores a purse in her vagina. Yeah. I want to know how many editors looked at that sentence and thought, yeah, that sounds like a thing women do. I mean, they keep tampons in there. Why not a purse? Go take a look at the subreddit Bad Women's Anatomy for some examples of people who clearly don't understand how women work. If the song WAP makes a few more people realize that getting wet is a normal part of some women's sexual experience and pleasure, then I'm all for it. And if that still upsets you, go pour holy water in your ears. Also, I'll start my own coffee profile, link in the video description. Also, because we're on social media, do the thing, leave me a like or a comment to look at. Special thanks to Brianna Stallings, my script advisor.